Welcome to the PMP Exam Prep Question Bank series. In this video, I've got 15 exam-style practice questions lined up for you, covering the kind of people, process, and business environment scenarios you'll see on the real PMP exam. Each question comes with the correct answer and a full explanation, including why the wrong options are wrong. Here's how to get the most out of this. When a question appears, pause the video, pick your answer, then hit play to check yourself. Ready? Let's dive in. Question 31. A project team was formed entirely from a single department and has struggled to anticipate how a new process will affect other parts of the organization. What should the project manager do to improve this going forward? The correct answer is B. Intentionally include team members or reviewers from other affected departments to broaden the team's perspective. Deliberately including diverse perspectives, including from affected departments, helps the team anticipate impacts it would otherwise miss. Now, why the other options are wrong. Continue with the current team since it already knows the department's processes well is incorrect. Relying solely on a single perspective is the root cause of the blind spots the team has already experienced. Ask the single department to research the other department's needs independently is incorrect. Indirect research is a weaker substitute for having the affected perspectives directly represented on or consulted by the team. Escalate the issue to senior management for them to decide team composition is incorrect. This is normally within the project manager's own influence to address by inviting broader participation without requiring escalation. Question 32. A high-performing team member's engagement has dropped, even though their salary and working conditions are competitive. They mention feeling their contributions go unnoticed. Which motivational factor is most likely missing? The correct answer is A. Recognition, a motivator factor tied to feeling valued for one's contributions. The team member's own words point to a lack of recognition, a classic motivator factor, per Hertzberg's two-factor theory, that drives genuine engagement beyond baseline hygiene factors. Now, why the other options are wrong? Hygiene factors such as pay and working conditions is incorrect. The scenario states pay and conditions are already competitive, and Hertzberg's theory holds that hygiene factors prevent dissatisfaction but don't drive motivation on their own. Job security is incorrect. Nothing in the scenario suggests concern about job security. The stated issue is feeling unnoticed, not insecure. Physical work environment is incorrect. The scenario doesn't mention any issue with the physical environment. The stated concern is about recognition. Question 33. A project manager reviews and approves every minor task update before a team member can proceed, even on low-risk items. Team velocity has slowed as a result. What should the project manager change? The correct answer is B. Delegate appropriate decision-making authority for low-risk items and reserve reviews for higher risk or higher impact work. Effective delegation matches the level of oversight to the level of risk, freeing the team to move faster on routine, low-risk work while preserving control where it matters. Now, why the other options are wrong? Continue the reviews but do them faster is incorrect. Speeding up an unnecessary control doesn't remove the bottleneck it creates. The review requirement itself is the problem for low-risk items. Remove all oversight from the project entirely is incorrect. Eliminating all oversight is an overcorrection. Some review is still appropriate for higher-risk work. Ask a different team member to take over all approvals instead is incorrect. This just relocates the same excessive control to someone else rather than adjusting the level of oversight to match risk. Question 34. A previously reliable team member has missed several recent deadlines. The project manager learns the team member has been dealing with a personal family issue. What is the most appropriate next step? The correct answer is A. Have a private, supportive conversation to understand their needs and adjust expectations or workload as appropriate. A private, empathetic conversation allows the project manager to understand the situation and make reasonable accommodations while maintaining project commitments where possible. Now, why the other options are wrong. Immediately reassign all of their tasks to other team members without discussion is incorrect. Reassigning work without first discussing the situation with the team member is a premature and impersonal response. Document the missed deadlines and initiate formal disciplinary action right away is incorrect. Jumping straight to formal discipline without first understanding the context is disproportionate and can damage trust. Say nothing and hope performance improves on its own is incorrect. Taking no action ignores a recurring issue that is affecting the project and doesn't support the team member. Question 35. A team member from a culture that values indirect communication has not raised concerns about a flawed design directly, even though they privately disagree with it. What should the project manager do to improve communication going forward? The correct answer is D. Create multiple channels for feedback, including private and indirect options, so all team members can contribute comfortably. Adapting communication approaches to account for cultural differences, including offering private or indirect channels, helps ensure valuable input isn't lost due to communication style mismatches. Now, why the other options are wrong. Insist that all team members must always communicate directly, regardless of cultural norms, is incorrect. Demanding a single communication style ignores legitimate cultural differences and may reduce psychological safety rather than improve input. Exclude the team member from design discussions to avoid the issue is incorrect. Excluding the team member removes their expertise from the process entirely and doesn't address the communication gap. Assume silence means agreement and proceed without further outreach is incorrect. Assuming silence equals agreement, especially across cultural communication differences, risks missing legitimate concerns. Question 36. At the first meeting of a newly formed project team whose members have never worked together, what should the project manager prioritize to build trust and cohesion? The correct answer is A. Facilitate introductions, discuss shared goals, and begin establishing working agreements as a team. Early focus on introductions, shared purpose, and working agreements builds the foundation of trust and cohesion a new team needs before diving into detailed execution. Now, why the other options are wrong. Immediately assign detailed technical tasks to each member is incorrect. Jumping straight to detailed task assignment skips the relationship and norm building that helps a brand new team work well together. Distribute a rulebook without team discussion is incorrect. A one-way rulebook without team input doesn't build the shared ownership that trust and cohesion depend on. Postpone team-building activities until after the first major milestone is incorrect. Waiting until after a major milestone delays trust building at the point in the project when it's most needed, the start. Question 37. A team has been working significant overtime for the past 2 months to meet an aggressive schedule, and several members are showing signs of fatigue and declining output quality. What should the project manager do? The correct answer is D. Assess the schedule and workload and adjust, such as reprioritizing, adding resources, or negotiating scope or timeline to restore a sustainable pace. Recognizing burnout and proactively adjusting schedule, scope, or resourcing protects both team well-being and the quality of the deliverable, which is a core project manager responsibility. Now, why the other options are wrong. Push through since the deadline is close and any change now would be disruptive is incorrect. Continuing at an unsustainable pace risks further quality decline, errors, and potential turnover, all of which threaten the deadline more than a planned adjustment would. Tell the team to take unlimited unpaid leave immediately is incorrect. This is an extreme, unplanned response that doesn't address the schedule or workload issue driving the overtime. Reduce the quality standards to reduce the team's workload is incorrect. Lowering quality standards trades one problem for another rather than addressing the root workload and schedule issue. Question 38. Two project managers in the same organization both need the same specialized engineer at full capacity during the same 2-week period, and neither project can proceed without that resource. What is the most appropriate way to resolve this? The correct answer is B. Escalate the conflict to a resource manager, PMO, or sponsor, who can weigh organizational priorities and make or facilitate the allocation decision. When two projects have a genuine resource conflict, neither project manager has the authority to resolve unilaterally. Escalating to a party with visibility into organizational priorities is the appropriate path. Now, why the other options are wrong? Whichever project manager asks first gets the resource is incorrect. First-come allocation ignores the relative priority and business value of each project, which is the actual basis for this kind of resourcing decision. Have the engineers split their time evenly between both projects, regardless of impact, is incorrect. An even split ignores the stated full capacity need on both sides, and may cause both projects to fail their commitments without any prioritization analysis. Each project manager should independently negotiate directly with the engineer to decide is incorrect. Resourcing conflicts should be resolved through organizational prioritization channels, not left to the individual engineer to decide between competing manager requests. Question 39. Two stakeholders have a strong personal disagreement about a scope decision, and their conflict is beginning to affect meeting dynamics beyond the specific decision at hand. What should the project manager do? The correct answer is D. Facilitate a structured discussion focused on project objectives and criteria, separate from the interpersonal tension to reach a decision. Refocusing the discussion on objective criteria and project goals helps depersonalize the disagreement and move toward a resolution based on merit rather than personal conflict. Now, why the other options are wrong. Avoid the topic in future meetings so the conflict doesn't resurface is incorrect. Avoidance doesn't resolve the underlying scope decision or interpersonal tension, and the issue is likely to keep resurfacing. Make the scope decision unilaterally without further stakeholder input to end the conflict quickly is incorrect. Bypassing stakeholder input to end the conflict quickly risks a worse decision and doesn't address the underlying relationship tension. Ask a more senior stakeholder to permanently exclude one of the two from scope discussions is incorrect. Permanently excluding a stakeholder from decisions relevant to them is a disproportionate response to a specific disagreement. Question 40. During a retrospective, a team member raises a concern about the current workflow, but the project manager immediately responds with a solution before fully hearing the concern. What technique should the project manager use instead? The correct answer is A. Practice active listening. Let the team member fully explain the concern, paraphrase it back, and ask clarifying questions before responding. Active listening ensures the concern is fully understood before a response is offered, which leads to better solutions and shows the team member their input is valued. Now, why the other options are wrong? Interrupt with the best solution as quickly as possible is incorrect. This is what happened in the scenario and is exactly the behavior that undermines effective listening. Redirect the conversation to a different topic to avoid dwelling on concerns is incorrect. Redirecting away from a raised concern discourages future openness and doesn't address the issue. Ask the team member to submit the concern in writing instead of discussing it live is incorrect. Deferring to writing during a retrospective whose purpose is open discussion removes the value of real-time dialogue and clarification. Question 41. A team has just delivered a major milestone ahead of schedule after a demanding push. What should the project manager do to sustain team motivation going forward? The correct answer is C. Recognize and celebrate the team's achievement in a way that's meaningful to them before transitioning to the next phase. Recognizing accomplishments reinforces positive behavior and sustains motivation, which is a well-established practice for maintaining team engagement over a project's life. Now, why the other options are wrong? Immediately assign the next milestone's tasks without acknowledging the achievement is incorrect. Moving straight to the next task without any acknowledgement misses an opportunity to reinforce positive performance and can reduce future motivation. Increase the next milestone's workload since the team clearly has capacity to spare is incorrect. Assuming spare capacity because the team met one aggressive milestone risks burnout and doesn't account for the effort already expended. Keep recognition private to the project manager only, without informing the team is incorrect. Recognition needs to reach the team itself to have any motivational effect. Keeping it private defeats the purpose. Question 42. A new team member joins a project that is already 3 months into execution. What should the project manager do to help them become productive quickly? The correct answer is D. Provide a structured onboarding that includes project context, key stakeholders, current status, and a point of contact for questions. A structured onboarding that orients the new member to context, people, and current status accelerates their path to productive contribution. Now, why the other options are wrong? Expect them to learn the project context entirely on their own from existing documentation is incorrect. Relying solely on self-directed document review without support typically slows productivity and increases the risk of misunderstandings. Assign them the most complex outstanding task first to test their skills is incorrect. Starting with the most complex task before they have project context increases the risk of errors and doesn't support a smooth ramp-up. Wait until the next major milestone to formally introduce them to the team is incorrect. Delaying introduction to the team leaves the new member isolated and slows their integration unnecessarily. Question 43. A project team includes both full-time employees and contractors. The project manager notices that contractors are frequently left out of informal hallway conversations where decisions get discussed before formal meetings. What should the project manager do? The correct answer is A. Ensure that key decisions and context are captured and shared through formal channels accessible to the entire team, contractors included. Making sure important information flows through channels available to everyone, not just those in informal conversations, ensures the whole team, regardless of employment type, has the context needed to contribute effectively. Now, why the other options are wrong. Accept this as a natural consequence of different employment types is incorrect. Accepting exclusion as inevitable risks contractors missing context that affects their work and the project's outcomes. Ask contractors to spend more unpaid time near the office to catch informal conversations is incorrect. This is both an inappropriate and likely inequitable expectation of contractors' time, and it doesn't fix the underlying information sharing gap. Exclude full-time employees from informal conversations too to make it fair is incorrect. Restricting all informal conversation doesn't solve the issue and isn't practical. The fix is ensuring information reaches everyone through formal channels. Question 44. A disagreement between two team members over how to implement a technical requirement has continued for several days, despite the project manager's attempts to facilitate a resolution. The delay is now threatening a near-term milestone. What should the project manager do? The correct answer is D. Escalate the technical decision to an appropriate authority, such as a technical lead or sponsor, since facilitation has not resolved it in time. When good faith facilitation has not resolved a conflict and a real deadline is at risk, escalating to someone with the authority or expertise to make the call is the appropriate next step. Now, why the other options are wrong? Continue facilitating indefinitely, since escalation should always be avoided, is incorrect. Escalation is a legitimate tool when facilitation has been attempted and a milestone is now at risk. Treating it as something to always avoid ignores the actual risk to the project. Make the technical decision personally, even though it's outside the project manager's technical expertise, is incorrect. Deciding a technical matter outside one's own expertise, rather than involving someone qualified, risks a poor technical outcome. Remove both team members from the task entirely is incorrect. Removing both individuals discards their expertise and doesn't resolve the underlying technical disagreement in time for the milestone. Question 45. A project manager needs the finance department, which does not report to them, to prioritize processing an urgent invoice to keep a vendor engaged. What is the most effective approach? The correct answer is A. Build the case by explaining the business impact, understand the finance team's constraints, and request their help collaboratively. Influencing without formal authority relies on explaining shared business impact, understanding the other party's constraints, and making a collaborative request. This builds cooperation rather than compliance through pressure. Now, why the other options are wrong? Send an email demanding immediate action and copy senior leadership is incorrect. A demanding tone paired with an escalation by default approach can damage the working relationship and is disproportionate before other approaches have been tried. Wait for finance to notice the invoice in their normal queue is incorrect. Passively waiting doesn't address the urgency the situation requires and risks the vendor relationship the project manager is trying to protect. Ask a peer project manager to pressure finance instead is incorrect. Delegating pressure to a peer with no more authority than the requester doesn't add legitimate influence and can strain relationships further. And that's a wrap on this video. Nice work getting through those 15 questions. If this helped, you're going to want the complete set. All 1,080 exam-style questions, with full explanations across all 3 PMP domains, are available in my Udemy course, PMP Exam Prep 2026 ECO. 6 full practice exams, 1,080 questions. The link is in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where I'll walk you through 15 more questions. See you in the next video!